from Castle Goring, from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Oh. My girls say that although we have some controversy to cover today, we have something to celebrate, which is the King's visit to Germany. His first state visit. I actually think it's very appropriate that the first state visit has not been to France, but to Germany. If you study history, you will know that France was not our natural ally to the extent that Germany was. And the derailment of the alliances helped to create the totally unnecessary First World War, which really destroyed European civilization as it had developed and existed for hundreds, if not thousands of years. Well, the King and Queen were well received, and I was very reassured to see that the German relations were included in some of the program. For instance, Princess Margarita, who was Prince Philip's sister, her grandson Prince Philip of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, who is actually doubly related to Charles because one of his other great, however many times great-grandparents was married into Queen Victoria's family quite separately. And of course, he is a cousin of the famous Prince Alfonso of Hohenlohe-Langenburg, who founded the Marbella Club. Then there is the grandson of Prince Philip's sister, Princess Theodora, if I remember correctly. Yes, Theodora, the Margrave of Baden. And of course, Prince Philip was slightly brought up by the Badens when he was a young boy, because Salem, which was their castle, was the original site of what became Gordonston. And the Badens were quite an anti-Nazi family. And when Hitler came to power, Kurt Hahn, who ran the school with the old, then heir to the Margravite, he was Prince Max of Baden, and then Prince Berthold of Baden. And Kurt Hahn ran the school and was run out of Germany by the Nazis and went to Scotland. So the Badens are also close to the family, as are the grandchildren and indeed the children of Princess Sophie, who was the youngest daughter. Married at 16 to Prince Christopher of Hesse. He was one of the Hesse castles, because Philip's other sister, the hereditary Grand Duchess of Hesse, was married to the hereditary Grand Duke, who was one of the Hesse-Darmstadt family. And then when the Darmstadts died out, it's all now consolidated into just one family. But Sophie's first husband, Prince Christopher of Hesse, was actually, for a while, quite a figure in the Nazi party and was exterminated on Hitler's orders. This is what Lord Mountbatten always believed, and it is utterly credible. Her next husband was Prince George of Hanover, who was the younger son of the Duke of Brunswick. The Duke of Brunswick's daughter became Queen Frederica of the Hellenes. So there are also close relations with the Hesses and the Hanovers, because Princess Sophie, if I remember, had 8 children, 5 with Prince Christopher of Hesse, one of whom was born posthumously, and then 3 with Prince George of Hanover. And for what it's worth, the king speaks German, but what people don't realize, not only did his father speak German fluently, but so did his mother. Queen Elizabeth II spoke German, and indeed her mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, also spoke German. Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, hated the Germans because of the First World War and the loss of her brother and the impending loss of another brother who turned out to have survived. But the rest of the family, they all rub along wonderfully well, as they ought to. So, a little bit of celebratory news. And it's nice to see the King and Queen have a successful state visit. And you notice Harry didn't appear at court. He only appeared on Tuesday and Wednesday. Or was it, Monday and Tuesday. Monday and Tuesday. He didn't appear on Wednesday. My goodness, is Harry learning restraint? Is he finally understanding that maybe all this common, vulgar, disgusting publicity seeking is très Hollywood and très arriviste and awfully vulgar, and that the constant competition with the rest of the family for headlines is at best tasteless and at worst self-destructive? Anyway, the Range says, does Harry not realize he has shot himself in the foot? Again, he came without police protection, no armed guards. This says he doesn't feel he needs them, or he wouldn't have come. No wonder H is broke. Half of the money has been spent on court hearings. Aurora, you agree, don't you? Yes, Aurora said she agrees with that. Well, yes. You know, Harry and Meghan's conduct is so wildly inconsistent that's why they have lost credibility generally. But that also shows up their agendas. And the Range, you are absolutely right. He has shot himself in the foot. And notice, he was able to move around not only freely, but attention-seekingly, because he could have entered the court that first day in a discreet manner, but no, he chose to run the gauntlet with the public, except, of course, the public didn't know he was going to be there, so there was no public there. No threat, no nothing. Sarah L. says, it was so obvious that Harry walked into the paparazzo on purpose. He was looking directly at him for long enough that he could have evaded the collision. He tried really hard to make it look like he is hounded and in danger from the dial-on-demand paparazzi, when it is the other way around. Sarah L., I love you. Well, yes, I did look at the clip. Harry could have evaded the paparazzo, but he didn't. Why? Well, one of two possibilities. Number one, he needs the collision to have, oh, my life's in danger, my life's in danger. I can't even walk from the car into court without being apprehended by a paparazzo who's going to flash a camera in my face. Or he's arrogant enough to think, why should I get out of the way? I'm a prince. Get out of the way, you little jerk. And he collided with him. Harry and Meghan are not hounded by the paparazzi. They are the ones who set up their hounding. Diana, to an extent, did the same thing, but Diana was genuinely hounded. It is a sore point with these two self-important non-entities that for all of their orchestration, they do not have the paparazzi interest in them that his mother had. And do you remember in the Netflix series, oh, yes, where's? And there was nobody pursuing them. Nobody. It was all for show. They would love to be pursued by the paparazzi. They're just not being pursued by them. It's as simple as that. And you know why? Because their photographs don't fetch good money. Do you know why Diana was able to always get the swarm of locusts out to pitch on her land? Because she always, when she had her photograph taken, it commanded good money. That's the reality. Shaw Roberts says, why does Harry present himself to crowds by adjusting his jacket at every opportunity? Is he attempting to hide his wire? Oh, goodness. Cover up yesterday's soup? Or to accentuate his hand's wedding ring? Others have suggested it's to draw attention to a codpiece. Perhaps the Arden cream has smeared. Well, Shaw Roberts, I'm going to let you into a little secret. Harry is very proud of his possession. Let's put it that way. He loves his possession. He is obsessed with his possession. And he believes that he's found someone who at least used to love his possession to the extent that he does and appreciated it. And he dresses accordingly. Now, the term dress in this country, at least in the circles I move in, means a gentleman dresses his attributes and in doing so hopefully makes them not the center of attention. While Harry dresses in such a way that his, what you call his codpiece, is the focus of attention. And do you notice the way he walks as well? He walks in a very, I don't know if you'd say it's unnatural, immature, or just unseemly way, but he walks with his attributes always the focus of attention. That's why he walks the way he does. That's why he dresses the way he does. That's why he moves the way he does. And just as how Meghan was always flicking that coat to show the bump, Harry is flicking and fussing with his jacket and his hands, so that the focus of attention shifts to the central issue. Let's put it that way. Clodagh Nigalaka says, "Dear Lady C, I hope you are feeling better. Much better, thank you. You are rocking the headband." Thank you. I take it you don't mean this one. You mean the other one. "Do you think Todger Windsor has an ulterior motive in bringing his worldwide privacy tour to London at this time? Is there a possibility that he is trying to spin yet another victim angle for himself and Walmart Wallace? He came to London and everybody shunned him. How could they possibly attend the coronation after this overt bullying? I would love to hear your insights. Love always, Clodagh." Greetings, Clodagh. Oh, he's definitely flying a kite. And he's also availing himself of attention. Remember, Harry and Meghan's game plan, their money-making enterprises, only are as good as the publicity they get. And since they have been getting very negative publicity, they are trying to spin things in such a way that they will end up having more positive publicity. But in certain fields, any publicity is better than no publicity at all. There will always be some second or third rate television or media enterprise that will pay people like Meghan and Harry ever decreasing but still good amounts of money to be fodder for their programming. He came to London doubtless to grab attention, and also he has an obsessive hatred not only of the press but of the Mail in particular. Now, to an extent, this is really quite uncalled for. Let me tell you, I speak from personal experience. The Mail has done far more damage to my life over the decades than they have ever done to Harry's or Meghan's. And you don't see me having an obsessive hatred of the Mail. So there's, first of all, the kink in his thinking. That's number one. But number two, do you think he'd have bothered to come over if it didn't suit him in terms of publicity? He and Elton John and Elizabeth Hurley and Hugh Grant and Sadie Frost and Doreen Lawrence cooked it up amongst themselves to have maximum attention drawn to this case. And Harry has said, if the case is struck out, if the whole of England's doomed. I mean, yet again, Harry shows us how completely moderate he is in his conclusions. Is he setting himself up for victimhood? Well, he always tries to. But basically, I think it's just a cheap and vulgar opportunist creating an opportunity for column inches. And remember, he would have arrived when the king was in France. And that would have been to him the greatest thrill. Oh, you see, Pa, you think you're so special. Well, I've got attention too. I don't think he'd have knocked the king or the queen off the front pages of the newspapers, but he would have certainly wangled his way into mentionings. Well, as it's turned out, the visit was aborted, and certainly the start of the state visit to Germany has gone off with no interruptions from Harry or any of the other royals. Well, let's see what happens by the end of it. But is he setting himself up for the possibility of not attending the coronation? Well, they've been spreading the story that he was chaired as he entered the court. Well, since the first day he went via the Strand, and nobody knew he was there. If he was chaired by camp followers he had placed there to chair him, because nobody else knew he was going to be there. So the public don't congregate there. Take it from me. I've been to those courts many times, and there is no congregation of the public ever. They have huge stars coming and going on a daily basis. And the people in the area are all business people and professionals. They have no interest whatsoever in what is happening at the Royal Courts of Justice in the Strand. So if he received any chairs whatsoever, he did what Marlene Dietrich used to do: pay people to come and clap and throw flowers and say, "Oh, how great you are." I don't think that this is a dry run for anything except a top-up of attention. And he is hoping that because of the reason why he has come, that the press will not be negative about him, and therefore it neutralizes the setting so that when they show up for the coronation, because I really don't see those two publicity fiends missing the photo op. Maybe the earth will turn flat, but until it does, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say it looks round to me. And I don't see any ground laying except in terms of photo op now. Hopefully it's going to neutralize, but it's not going to neutralize the press, and it's not going to neutralize the public, because if they show up, their years of abuse against the royal family, his grandparents, remember? he can get himself over here for an unnecessary court appearance, but he couldn't go to see his grandmother when she was dying or to see his grandfather. Let's remember that. And heaped all sorts of contumely upon their heads as they were dying. So, I think people remember this, and I think this is going to impact adversely upon his and her appearance at the coronation. Angela Reid says, Lady C, what do you think about the Archewell, because it's really not Archewell, the Archewell tax return just published in the USA? They seem to only employ one staff member, James Holt, on really a very trivial salary, but then that's doubtless only one of the many irons that he has in the fire with them. Has Meg's baby called in favours to get staff to work for free? Well, Angela Reid, I don't think Meg's baby needs to call in favours from staff. I mean, I can understand Meg's baby calling in favours elsewhere, and maybe even giving a few favours in return. But I don't think she's going to do it with staff. I mean, she's much too classy to be giving favours to staff. And does she want to have favours from staff? Well, the interesting thing, of course, is who paid all those people? Because not one of their names is on the tax return. Now, the business is broken up into various sections. So maybe the staff payments show up on the non-charity aspect of the business. But what is very clear from the tax return is that Archewell Charity is a political activist organization that breaches every single one of the requirements for a charity to be functional. It's an activist organization. It's political activism. This is strictly forbidden by American law. Yet it's there in black and white. Also, the answers to the questions are vague as to be meaningless. The whole thing is massively opaque. There are, of the $13 million that has been received, nearly 10 million is sitting in the account, not having been utilized, and some of what has been utilized is extremely interesting, to put it that way. I would recommend that any American who feels discomforted by this tax return exercises his or her right to get in touch with the authorities and question if this tax return is going to be passed as acceptable. Now, somebody drew my attention to the fact that there is an excellent breakdown of this on a YouTube channel called The Royal Grift. And I would recommend to anybody with the time and inclination to know what has really gone on and how outrageous this tax return is, that they look at the royal grift, because it's broken down in chapter and verse. And Meghan and Harry are always complaining. Complain. It's your tax money. Your tax money if you're American. I would recommend you do something about it. The Bard of Linden Hill says, Dear Lady C, given that it was unnecessary for Harry to come to London for the court hearing, do you think his handler sent him over as a dry run to test the reception he would get and save herself the possible embarrassment of being booed at the coronation should they decide to disgrace the king with their presence? I love it. Also, what is going on with the uncertainty as to whether or not they plan to attend? Isn't it proper etiquette to send an RSVP promptly? I'll answer the questions in reverse. Yes, it is regarded as good form to respond to an invitation as quickly as possible. But we're not dealing with people who are civilized or bother with politesse. They take advantage of every situation to create trouble, cause havoc, wrangle. It's always a wrangling. They're like two dogs with one bone. To and fro, push and pull. Very boring. What's the uncertainty about whether they will attend or not? It keeps them in the news. They're also hoping to either get better terms than they know they can expect, or in the alternative, after wrangling, to set themselves up for perfect victimhood. And are they doing this as a dry run to see whether there is going to be booing at the coronation? I would be very surprised if they are not booed at the coronation. I would also be very surprised if Harry were booed in a situation such as he has been in, stepping out of a car into a court of law. It's a momentary thing. There's no public congregated there. People don't have preconceptions. They're going about their daily business. There's no likelihood of Harry being booed by three people. Maybe serendipitously, one is walking past, sees him and thinks, oh, that jerk, and boos. But that is pure serendipity. And I notice I didn't say coincidence. Big difference. But no, I think Harry and Meghan treat themselves, the public, their appearances, as photo ops to maximize their brand. You know, Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan, who was Meghan's business manager, said that she is ultimately nothing but a businesswoman. And it all comes down to dollars and cents. Colleen Lewis says, Good morning, Lady C. Good morning. I'm having a hard time believing that the late Queen did not see through Meghan. Can you explain why the Queen would have given her permission for Harry to marry such an evil person? She had to see what a disaster it would be. Well, Colleen Lewis, first of all, may I say You are entitled to your opinion, and if you regard Meghan as evil, she has certainly done sufficiently dodgy things for me to respect the fact that you have come to that conclusion. But it does not behoove us to think that the Queen thought of Meghan as evil. When Meghan arrived on the scene, yes, the family very quickly knew that she had an extremely interesting, shall we say, past. And a lot of it was dealt with. That's right. When it became apparent that Harry was determined to marry her. Neither Prince Philip nor the Queen wanted the marriage to take place because they did not regard Meghan as somebody who would be sufficiently self-abnegating as to become a credit to herself or the royal family in the role of royal. And sure enough, their assessment turned out to be absolutely accurate. They had one or two things that they regarded as desirable. She was able to control Harry in a way that nobody else had ever been able to control Harry. And so that was judged in the early days to be a plus. Of course, they didn't realize that she was setting up the situation to move to California and set herself and Harry up as the emperor and empress of the universe, as opposed to that dinky little royal family in that dinky little country called the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. We're much bigger, Mr. DeMille. The movies used to be big, but now they're small, and I, Norma Desmond, am a huge star. The movies have got small. I'm still big. Well, Meghan has that variation. I'm the greatest of them all. And I'm going to make sure that I cram it down your throat until you believe it. Well, nobody expected it to be the disaster it has turned out to be, because nobody understood the enormity of what they were dealing with. People actually thought that Meghan was a positive influence on Harry, because in the early days, she set out to court the Queen and the then Prince of Wales and charm them, and succeeded. She did not succeed with Prince Philip. He saw through her from the word go and made no bones about it. Oh, he liked the fact that she was bright and buzzy. But, you know, Prince Philip understood that gentlemen deal with women like that by unsheathing their swords, but not in an official capacity. And both the Queen and Prince Philip tried to get Harry to not marry her. And Harry is the one who threatened that if they did not agree to him marrying her, that they would be accused of racism. So, did the Queen see through Meghan? Up to a point. But beyond that point, no. Neither the Queen nor the then Prince Charles actually had Meghan's measure the way other members of the family, such as Prince Philip, had her measure. But once it became apparent how malignant and conniving and manipulative and quite frankly shameless Meghan was, the Queen certainly then had her measure. That's why she put her foot down and said, no half in, half out. And thereafter, till her death, the Queen made absolutely sure that she kept that foot firmly planted on the ground. Why do you think Meghan and Harry refused to interact in any meaningful way and in any depth and personally, person to person, with the Queen? Because they knew they couldn't work their way around her. Sherry Brogden says, Dear Lady C, did you see H's eyes? They were almost totally black with very little blue. He walked into the photographer. Why did he mess with the man's pockets? Was he high? Well, he certainly was tripping on his own importance, and he certainly was tripping on the delights of a real attention junkie being photographed. I just, one click at a time just sends me into ecstasy, but I can't say that. So I have to say it sends me into panic. But I'm so panicked that I just love it all. And we've already covered why he walked into the photographer. I think Harry expected the photographer to get out of his way. And he didn't. As simple as that. Gabe's mom says, just boggles the mind that Harry thinks he would be welcomed at the palace and that his father or brother would want to see him. Yes, Gabe's mom, doesn't it boggle the mind? But you know, it boggles the mind because you have one. Harry doesn't have a mind, nor does Meghan. Harry is a drug-addled, brain-dead jerk, in my not-so-humble opinion, going off his conduct. Only people of the arrogance and self-deluding importance of Harry and Meghan could actually believe that anybody would welcome them anywhere. But even if Harry's aware of the fact that they wouldn't welcome him, he's going to spin it that their reservations about seeing him are their fault and that they have somehow injured him by not embracing the viper to their bosom so that he can take yet another nip out of it. Is it insanity or just crass gamesmanship? Or maybe a combination of the two? I leave it up to you to think what you think. I know what I think. Dorothy Edwards says, Dear Lady C, do you think these two traitors will virtually disappear after the coronation? Or will they find something else to continue their cruelty against Charles, William and the royal family? Dorothy Edwards, you know, there is a vulgarism that I'm afraid I can't actually stretch to repeating, which summarizes exactly what, but I will actually hint at it. The I'll clean it up. The natural function of an anal orifice is to expel waste. Don't be surprised when it performs its natural function, because that's what it's there for. I think after the coronation, you see the family needs to get through the next few weeks with a minimum of drama and to minimize the sensationalism and the histrionics emanating from Montecito. But after the coronation, then they can put on their hard hats. At the moment, they need to keep their heads bare so that the coronets and the tiaras will show. But afterwards, they can put on their hard hats and get down to the serious business of actually allowing Harry and Meghan to be dealt with. Now, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. The royal family and the palace are not themselves going to flick the light switch that shines the light on Harry and Meghan. But there are other entities that are going to flick the light switch. And at that point, the palace has to decide how it's going to handle it. Let us see what happens then. More than that, I don't want to say. But Harry and Meghan will always come up with something. They are orifices whose natural function in life is to spew forth feces. Don't expect them to turn into chocolate ice cream factories. They don't have the means, the natural ability, or the equipment. So don't be surprised when after the coronation, we're still treated to streams of filth, because it will happen. That is their natural function in life. B says, question Lady C, have you heard that on March the 13th, 2023, the Cut magazine published another article poking fun at Megaphone? Is Meghan Markle getting back into blogging? By Claire Lampooned, a staff writer for The Cut. It seems to start out seriously, and by the end it's truly another pun, joke of her. What are your thoughts? Fox News, mainstream media, TV are reporting negatively on the two, H and M. I truly believe all outlets will begin to expose them within time. The big sharks eventually eat the little fish. I'm looking forward to that fish fry. Do you agree? Thank you for bringing it to my attention. B, I did read it. And yes, Claire Lampooned has, in The Cut, slashed Meghan left, right and centre. And yes, all the former publications that were either in favour of them or neutral or slightly hands-off or respectfully pejorative, it's now going to become ever increasingly open season, and they're just going to be kicked left, right, and centre. Do they deserve it? I don't think I can think of another couple that has gone to the trouble that they have to make themselves into the odoriferous stinkers that they have shown themselves to be, and deserve being treated accordingly. And we will wrap up with Susan Reed, who says, Gwyneth Paltrow is an unappealing personality, reeking of entitlement and not bothering to conceal her disdain for the plebs. I wasn't expecting to believe her, but it's obvious she's telling the truth. The doctor's witness, who happens to be a good friend of his, was obviously lying on the stand. It's a money grab. There are several comments along these lines, and there are several comments to the contrary. I am going to say I do not particularly, as I think I made clear, believe in prejudging a case, and rarely one should not come to a conclusion until all the evidence is in. But I'm going to tell you one or two things. Experts are paid to promulgate a particular line. Some say the sun rises in the west. Others say it sets in the west. That's par for the course. Each side has its witnesses. My assessment of the situation was her conduct is disdainful and distasteful, number one. And number two, how can a man walk away with 4 broken ribs and a concussion, having slammed into her back, and she walks away with no real injuries? I'm sorry. That doesn't make sense to me. And I don't care how many charts they come up with. It doesn't make sense. If she didn't slam into him, how come he's so badly injured and she's not injured at all? Because by her own account, she only slightly stretched a muscle in her knee, I think it was, and needed a massage. Sorry. I could be wrong, but his injuries tell me that he is the one who was skied into. And her conduct tells me that she is typical of a certain sort of person who can never be wrong and never admit to being wrong, no matter what. I was brought up by one of those people. There is no depth to which people won't go to prove that they are in the right, even when they are in the wrong, if they are that way inclined. I could be wrong, and if I'm wrong, I'll be happy to say I have been proven wrong. But until such time as somebody can explain to me how she walked away with no injuries and he was so badly injured, I'm afraid it doesn't stack up. Sorry. And on that note, I will say I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please keep the questions and comments coming in, because remember, this cannot be done without you. And what can I say? I hope you have enjoyed it. God bless. Thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye. And if you have enjoyed it, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and see you next time. Bye-bye.